Well, good morning. Happy New Year. And we've went another lap around the sun. I've got a New Year's story that I hope will be an encouragement to you. A few years ago, I was working in the shop that my dad ran, an auto repair shop. One of our customers, his name was Max Henson. He was a preacher, a wonderful preacher. And he asked me if I'd be one of the speakers at their New Year's Eve service. When I was a little boy, I'd go to these New Year's Eve services, and they would have powerful services and powerful preachers. And then at the end of the service, we'd gather around and we would pray the old year out and pray the new year in. And I was looking forward to it. I was hoping God would give me one of those powerful sermons that those preachers had. But, you know, I just wasn't getting anything. I'd study and I'd read. Just nothing much was coming into my heart. And I had an uncle that was sick. I was going to go visit him. And on the way, I saw a yield sign, and I thought a little bit about that yield sign. I saw a speed limit sign. I thought a little bit about that speed limit sign. And then I saw a city limit sign as we got toward where my uncle lived. And so I got a little bit of thoughts out of that. And then Matthew 7:13 and 14 says that it's a broad way that leads to destruction, and a narrow way that leads to everlasting life. And I thought about God's roads. Well, I really didn't think that was going to be much of a message. Surely there'd be something more powerful than that. But as the night came, that was the only message on my heart. Well, I went in and I preached. And to my surprise, the people were listening. The young people were listening. And as I would preach about a sign, some of the ladies were looking at each other and smiling, and they were really enjoying it. I preached about the yield sign, yielding to God's way. And then I preached about the speed limit signs, about how that God puts limits in our life for our own good, for others' goods. And then I talked about the city limits and how my uncle was sick. And one day we'll get to a city where there's no more sickness and no more pain. And the people enjoyed this sermon. And after it was over, a lady came to me and said, "I have something to give you." Well, to my surprise, this was before GPS services were in our cars. This was one of God's GPS services, God's Pleasant Surprises. And she gave me this paper. And right up at the top was the verse that I'd preached out of. Matthew 7:13 and 14. "Enter ye in at the strait gate, for wide is the gate, and broad is the way that leadeth to destruction, and many there be which go in thereat. Because strait is the gate, and narrow is the way which leadeth unto life, and few there be that find it." And then she began to show me some of the signs. There was that yield sign. And here was the speed limit sign, and here was the one-way sign, and the city limit sign. And she told me how that they had been teaching the youth about the ways of life. And for a format, they were using road signs. And she said, "I want you to have this sign. One of God's pleasant surprises." I thought it'd be a dull sermon. Little did I know that God was using this to teach the youth. And the youth thought that I and their teacher had coordinated the whole thing. Listen, hope that encourages you. God knows where you're at. And I read a bumper sticker one time that said, "If you're going the wrong way, God allows U-turns." God bless you today.